We're live. We're going to wait for the room to fill a little bit. Good morning, Alliance of Delray. I'm Lori Vinacore, Executive Vice President. We have a terrific meeting today. Wow, we're going to hear about hurricane season. Is it going to be extended? Wow, we've got a PhD, Jake Leach from the Office of Resilience, who's going to speak about that. And also we've got Mary Blakeney from the Division of Emergency Management, and she's going to be letting us know what we can do for our communities during hurricane season. We have several elected officials today that are going to be speaking. Our officials usually speak for about 2 minutes each. So they're going to give us all updates first, and a lot has happened in Tallahassee, and they are finished with the session now. So we're going to hear a little bit about that. And just one thing, everybody knows we had postponed this from last week, which was a huge meeting where the Alliance was present at the Board of County Commissioners from 8:30 in the morning, actually, till 7:15 at night. It was a marathon meeting. And pursuant to that, the Sun Sentinel, in today's Sun Sentinel opinion section, okay, we actually do have an editorial from our president, Bob Schulbaum, in relationship to that meeting, where we, of course, are always concerned about the density in the agricultural reserve and how we want to limit that. So we will be sending that out via email so everybody could read that too. We're going to start out right now with our first responders, and with Lieutenant Morales will give a report. Please begin your report. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes.
All right. So good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I'm sitting in for Captain Sand today. He had another arrangement to attend to. So I'm happy to be here. I want to go over just a few things. I think last month he brought up that we were doing a traffic initiative on Jog Road just south of Atlantic Boulevard. How that happened was we got concerns and feedback from the community, specifically from Commissioner Sack's office, that there was a lot of speeding going on in that area. So what we did a case study. We put out certain resources to measure to see if that in fact was happening. Well, after reviewing the data from that, it was in fact determined that there was a lot of speeding going on, a lot of reckless driving in that area. So we launched a 2-week traffic operations plan. I just want to go over some of the stats with you guys, which turned out to be pretty good. In those 2 weeks, which was 10 days total of enforcement, we did 336 traffic stops. Out of those traffic stops, 122 citations and 164 warnings were issued. So we're hopeful that that impact during those 2 weeks is going to alleviate the problem, and hopefully everyone stays within the speed limit, which will reduce traffic crashes and make the road safer for everybody, specifically the community members that live in those surrounding areas. So we had a really good outcome out of that. I wanted to bring your attention something that occurred down in South County, which is in Boca, but as you guys know, criminals have no boundaries, so this could happen here. They're called distraction burglaries. And I'll give you an example of what happened. We have suspects, so-called contractors, that come to elderly victims' homes under the disguise of working on the house. For an example, they'll knock on the door and say, hey, we're here to do some fence work, some tree trimming, things like that. So once they gain the trust of the homeowner, they usually ask to see the backyard. So one of the workers goes to the backyard with the homeowner. In the meantime, there's other workers that enter the home while this is going on. So they make entry into the home, they steal jewelry and other valuables. So what happens is they leave, the homeowner comes back in, and this crime doesn't get reported till later on, until the homeowner realizes that the items were missing. So this is a crew that's going around and doing that. And we've got some good footage and some video surveillance of these suspects, but just be mindful of that. if a contractor, somebody knocks on your door that you did not solicit, please, please, please do not entertain it. Do not entertain it. And lastly, one more thing. Hurricane season is coming up. We're in full swing here. We've got our op plans that are due at the end of the week, and we're gearing up towards it. I know it's crazy. It seems like just a couple months ago we were just wrapping it up, but it's here, and I'm sure we're going to hear some really good information later on by some of the presenters. So that's about all I have. Thank you for having me, and everyone be safe.
Thank you so much. We have Chief Tazi now. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Alliance, commissioners, and all our distinguished guests. Great to be back with you this month. Last month, as you'll recall, I had the privilege of introducing Chief Robert Grimes as your new district chief for the Alliance area down here in West Boynton, West Delray. Unfortunately, after a couple weeks in the position, Chief Grimes realized that it was going to become somewhat of a family hardship to change in the schedule. He has young children, and some of these things, to the best of our planning, you don't really find out until you're in the position and doing it. And listen, we need the support of our spouses and our family. All of us do. So he went back to being a battalion chief down in the Boca area, West Boca, and we're currently in the process of putting on another promotional application period. Actually, it closes tonight, and we hope to have somebody in place for you by the end of the month. We've got a really strong pool of applicants, and I think we're going to find someone very good for you. I know we will. In the meantime, as I mentioned to you prior, I'm going to remain on as part of that transition team, very similar to the way Chief McGlynn's been there for us. And I look forward to it. You guys are still family to me. The only difference is my office is going to be up here in Wellington. So I'll still be on with you every month for the meetings, and I'll only be a phone call away. With that said, just want to go over briefly some of the calls that we, by the stations. Station 42 ran 402 calls last month, which is on average for about 5,000 calls per year. Very busy. Station 45, they ran 558, which puts them just shy of 7,000 calls. And this is at a time when our seasonal residents, let's face it, they're normally going back home, right? We're not seeing that happen. In fact, we're seeing probably more of an influx coming down to South Florida and beautiful Palm Beach County. So with that said, everybody be patient, be careful, and I won't get into the hurricane prep. We also at Fire Rescue are ready to go and are going through our ops plans, as Lieutenant Morales mentioned, the sheriff's offices, and of course we'll be working closely with them. So I look forward to seeing you next month, and everybody have a safe month.
Thank you so much for that. Great. We have our elected officials. We start with Senator Lori Berman. Great to see you today.
Thank you so much, Lori. Good morning, Delray Alliance. So happy to be with you all. I have 2 minutes for what we did in 2 months, so I'm going to talk real fast and try and get through a lot. But I know also I'm going to be supplemented by great colleagues, Representative Schlossberg and Representative Skidmore. So I'm sure they'll have more to add also. We have one responsibility. It's to have a balanced budget. This year, we have a budget of, believe it or not, the state of Florida, $100 billion. We thought we were going to be in big trouble going into this budgeting cycle because of COVID. But in reality, because of the federal government, thank you to Biden bucks, we actually got $10 billion extra and we were flush. And so the budget came out really nicely. We fully funded healthcare, hospitals. We gave, some money to our first responders. We're giving bonuses. We gave money to education, not as much as I would like to see. But overall, all of us supported the budget because it's really good. It brings a lot of good things to Palm Beach County. Personally, I brought about almost $5 million down to the county, which I'm really excited about. So there's really good things. I wanted to talk about a few of my bills. I had a really good year. I passed 7 bills this year. Some of them were parts of other bills, but I think some of them I want to just get the word out for all of you. One, we passed a sales tax exemption. The governor has to sign all these bills yet, and he hasn't, but it's for items to help people age in place in their house. And there will be a sales tax exemption if everything is signed into law for bed transfer handles, bed rails, grab bars, and shower seats. So if you need any of those items and you can wait a little bit, wait because you'll get the exemption from the sales tax. We also passed something called the Purple Alert, which is similar to amber and silver, but amber is for children up to 20, silver is for over 60. This alert is for people who fall in that gap between 20 and 60, who have cognitive impairment or developmental disabilities who go missing. And this will set up a system so that they can be, police and law enforcement and everyone can be alerted immediately. The third bill I passed, which I think is really important, and if you have children or grandchildren, please spread the word about this, because there is some resistance from some of the administration, but I think it's a great bill and it did pass, and I believe the governor will sign it. And that's for student retention. So I believe that and I did this with Representative Skidmore, so you should give her kudos too. There has been a quote COVID slide. These kids who are at home learning or having their education disrupted because somebody in the class gets COVID, they have to go back to virtual, or the child themselves could have had COVID. And so what we did is students in kindergarten through 5th grade, if you feel that your child suffered because of this school year, you can, there will be a procedure set in place, but you can request from your principal that your child be retained for this academic year. It's only for this year, and you have to show an academic reason. And if you do, such as your child falling behind in a subject or all subjects, if you do, it has to be automatically granted. So I'm very hopeful about that. We did a lot of preemption this year in Tallahassee, which that's when we in Tallahassee take control and say the states can't control. And that was very disturbing. We did things regarding impact fees, so that when a developer comes in, they're limited. They can only be charged 25% of the impact fees can only go up 25% over 2 years and 50% over 4 years, which is hard for a community like ours, where you could have a whole brand new community and the impact fees would need to go up higher than that. We limited the ability of governments to regulate home-based businesses, cottage industries. We limited their ability to do local occupational licensing. We did some limitations on renewable energy, so that was disappointing. But the good news was we didn't change the vacation rental bill. So if you have Airbnb problems in your communities, whatever laws you have in place now about noise and parking, they're still in place and you're still allowed to do them. So I want to leave time for my colleagues. I'm so happy to represent all of you in Tallahassee. It's been my honor. This was my 11th year and it was a tough year, but know that we are all fighting for you. All of us, our delegation up in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Berman. And yes, good for giving Representative Skidmore a little plug there. She can't be here this morning, but her staff is listening in on this. So we'll hear from her another time. And also, of course, we get the newsletters from all of our representatives and we send them out via email. We're going to now go on to Representative Schlossberg. So good to see you. Thank you so much for coming.
Good morning, Lori, and good morning, Alliance. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the bills that I passed this session. I believe last time I was here, I talked a little bit about Gail's Law, and what that was about Gail, who had been sexually brutally assaulted, and she submitted to a rape kit test, and her rape kit sat on a shelf untested for over 30 years. And so what the bill that I filed does, it requires the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to create and maintain a statewide tracking system for these rape kits, and also requires them to create a porthole for victims so that they could track their rape kits through the process. And that puts some power back into the hands of the victims. And it also has accountability. It provides accountability to the whole process. So that bill had passed, and it's just awaiting the governor's signature. Two other projects that I got into the budget, which we passed the budget, we're just waiting for the governor to sign the budget. So our fingers are crossed until that time. It's the Ruth Rails Jewish Family Services Transportation project, and that will provide funding for transportation to the Ruth and Norman Rails Center, right on the corner of Hagen Ranch and Atlantic. That services our community, And it's something that we really look forward to, and the Jewish Family Services really looks forward to fund rides for our seniors. Another project I got in was the Jordan Ogman's research, and that goes to benefit research for a rare disease that kind of occurs when a certain Ashkenazi religion come together and procreate. So we need some type of research. So those are two of the projects that I'm excited to talk about. Another bill that Senator Berman and I actually worked on was the school bus bill, and that passed through two committees. It allows school districts to put camera on its long arm of the school bus. And so we saw that there's been issues with drivers overtaking school buses, and it's really hard to enforce or to issue citations if law enforcement is not actually following the school bus. So this would just allow school districts to catch that on a camera when the school bus is stopped and the kids are getting on and off the school bus. So it passed through two committees, and we'll see hopefully next session if we can get that moving a little bit further, because it really is something that's a safety issue for our school kids. Another bill that passed, it hasn't been signed into law yet, but it affects COAs and HOAs, was Senate Bill 630. And it's a 100-page bill. There's a lot in it. It's very robust. Some of the things that it does is like there's emergency powers, because as we saw during COVID, some of the HOAs and the COAs had to meet virtually. And while there was emergency, the governor declared a state of emergency and had executive orders, we codified some of that into law, giving more emergency powers to our HOAs and COAs. And it also does a few other things. It specifically provides that, so there was issues with board member services and calculating their time served as a board member. So it says only a board member service that occurs on or after July 1st, 2018 may be used when calculating a board's member's term limit. So there was a lot of issues going on with term limits of the board members. And so we specifically designated that time for the cutoff period. It permits associations to electronically transmit written notice of a meeting. And there's also other provisions in this bill that it's really robust. I see I'm running out of time here, so I don't have time to go through everything, but it's something that I suggest that you all look at. Again, that's Senate Bill 630, and that really directly affects a lot of our COAs and HOAs. On another note, I just want to say I really enjoy my job. I love what we're doing. We're going back in next week to do the compact, the gaming compact. We'll be expanding gaming, not expanding gaming. We'll be just kind of regulating the taxing of the compact. So we will likely be seeing, we'll see crap tables and roulette tables at the Seminole, and also sports betting. So we're going to be seeing some additional gaming options come to our state shortly. Anyways, my office is on the corner of Hagen Ranch and Atlantic. Ed is there at all times. So if you need anything at all, we're here for you. I love my job and look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. And thank you, Lori, for putting this on.
Thank you very much, Representative Schlossberg. We're going to be hearing now from our two very local elected officials, Vice Mayor Weinroth and Commissioner Sachs. And then we're going to have a very special little brief presentation from the Supervisor of Elections, Wendy Link, today, because we're having some special elections coming up. So Vice Mayor Weinroth, great to see you.
Great to see you too, Dr. Vineker. And as you said, we had a marathon meeting and Dr. Vineker was right there with us for most of it. So, I'm going to touch on a few things. First, I want to make a plug for our police. This week is the National Peace Officers Memorial Day on May 15th. This has been National Police Week. So please, if you see one of our sheriffs or deputies or police officers out, please thank them for their service. It's a difficult job, especially during this last year, this pandemic. They've been out there for us. They've done everything they can to keep us safe. And please get out there and just let them know that we appreciate everything they do for us. As Lori said, we had a very long meeting, a lot of very fruitful discussion. I'm sure that there's going to be continued conversation about things that we had discussed in that meeting. Ag Reserve being, of course, one of those subjects that the commission is going to workshop in the next few months to try and take a look holistically at what has been occurring in the ag reserve over the last 20, 25 years. And I think it's an opportunity for us all to step back and make sure that we're all comfortable with the way that this has progressed over this 25-year period. So I know there's going to be a lot of conversation, and we're looking forward to hearing from Cobra and Alliance and from West Boca Community Council. And we're going to really want to hear from our residents, because we have to balance the issues that are out there. Workforce housing is something that's very important to your commission. We want to make sure that we have affordable housing here in Palm Beach County, and we have to make sure that we are acting appropriately in being able to give development rights, but give them in an appropriate fashion. So I know that this is going to be a conversation we're going to have for many months. We're still doing rental assistance. In fact, the portal is open until the 14th, the end of this week. So we've already given out over $6 million. If you have a need for rental assistance, or you know someone in your community that needs assistance, please tell them to get their application in. We've also given out over $200,000 for utility assistance. There's also assistance available for funerals. Unfortunately, in situations where someone has passed because of COVID, we can provide funeral expense money. So please get your applications in if this is something that you qualify for. Vaccinations continue. We are going to continue mass vaccinations through the end of this month. At the end of this month, we are going to close their mass vaccination sites, but they'll still be able to go to CVS, Winn-Dixie, Walmart, whatever. And many of these locations are now doing walk-ins. So we encourage everybody who would like to get a vaccine. Now is the time. We have just gotten the approval from the FDA for children 12 and up to start getting the vaccine. They need a parent or guardian to bring them in. They need to get their permission, but this is a way of getting the children back to school. Like Lori said, Senator Berman, we have an issue with the children who have just had a very rough year. We're going to certainly see a slide because of the pandemic. We always see a summer slide. The pandemic slide is certainly going to be something we're going to have to deal with. And we want to get those children back into in-person schooling in the fall. So please, anybody who has a child or a grandchild, encourage them to get their vaccination so we can get them back into school. And again, I'd like to thank our delegation up in Tallahassee. They worked very hard over the last 60 days, getting these bills through, bringing back the money. Certainly, Senator Berman, that $5 million you're bringing home, we appreciate it. And everything you guys do up there is terrific. Have fun next week when you go back up for the special session, and we know it'll be productive. Lori, thank you so much for this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor Weinroth. Now we have Commissioner Sachs, and she will be followed by the Supervisor of Elections, and then we'll get on to our program. But this is so important. All of these updates are just so important. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vinegar. And I'm very excited about this meeting. And I'd like to talk about three issues. The first issue is traffic enforcement. And I want to thank Lieutenant Morales for making sure that we have very strong traffic enforcement along our highways here in the Alliance neighborhood. Our roads are really overloaded with traffic back and forth between I-95 and the Turnpike and 441. But with good, effective traffic enforcement, we can at least keep it at a steady speed. Second issue is with EMS response times. For this, I'd like to thank Chief Tazi and Chief Jernan. We are working, my office and the firefighters are working diligently in finding areas in this District 5 in the area of the Alliance so that we can build more stations that are closer to the people who are living in this area. Sometimes development overlaps and overdoes our infrastructure. And that's where we are at a position right now. And Dr. Vinegar understands that and is always looking forward to finding areas that we can improve on in the county. The third issue, of course, is one that I am committed to from the very beginning of my campaign to have this seat. And that is to listen to the stakeholders of what should happen in the 20,000 acres of the Ag Reserve. Sometimes the stakeholders are not always heard. So therefore, I want to shine a light on your Alliance Executive Committee that was present at the May 5th meeting. It is available for anyone to watch on Channel 20. Don't skip any parts of it. It was good all the way to the very end, a little bit after 7. And your Vice President, our Dr. Vinegar, was present and spoke, and also spoke very eloquently about how we need to make sure that our stakeholders are heard. For this reason, this is what I'm doing. I am sending out, my office is sending out a survey. And Dr. Vinegar, I will send it to you, and I would ask that you send it to everybody, the thousands of members that you have in the Alliance. Whether you live in the Ag Reserve or not, doesn't make any difference. This is our neighborhood. This is where we live. And many times your voices can't be heard at these county commission meetings. So I am sending a survey out, and I want to hear from you as to what you, the homeowner, want to do with the Ag Reserve. And it'll be multiple choice. So it'll be one of those tests that you can't fail. So we're going to send the survey out. Based on the survey, I am appointing an elite team of advisors that will give us counsel, not only to me, but to all the members of the county commission, so they understand what it is about these 20,000 acres that we need to take care of, that we need to be good stewards of this land and make sure that it is developed. Once it's developed, folks, you can't take it away. You know, once the cement's on the ground, it's done. So we need to do a good job right now. And I'm very, very excited about doing that. Then we will come out with a proposal. This elite team that I'm putting together will come out with a proposal based on your responses on the survey as to how you want your neighborhood to look. So stay tuned. I'm going to send everything to Dr. Vinegar for your, if you don't get one of these surveys, please contact my office, and I will be there available to you to make sure that you get it personally. And one last thing, this District 5, which I represent, has no cities. So your only contact with government is through the county commission. I am here for you. I am here for our homeowners. Let me know how we can best serve you. Thank you so much, Dr. Vinegar.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs, for all that information and the update. Now we have very special information. If you can unmute yourself, Supervisor of Election Wendy Sartori-Link, great to see you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vinegar, and hello to everybody there. Yes, we do have a special election, as was mentioned, and the dates have just been given to us. They're not necessarily dates we were hoping for, but it's what we'll be dealing with. And so wanted to make sure everybody's prepared for that. We have, with the special election being for Congressional District 20, but of course, anybody who is in the state house or state senate who may choose to run, that's going to have a domino effect, because we'll then also be having to fill those seats. And my understanding from the state is it's all going to be done in one election. So there'll be several different qualifying periods, but one election. So the election for the primary election is set for November 2nd, and the general election is January 11th. So if you think about it, early voting for those elections will begin 10 days in advance, which means that for the January 11th general election, early voting will be starting on New Year's Day. So I know all of you are going to run out and join us for those for New Year's morning, but just want to make sure that everybody's aware of these dates. And we won't know until everybody starts qualifying how many seats are going to be affected by people resigning to run and us needing to fill those seats. So we'll keep you posted on that. Senate Bill 90 was signed into law. There were 67 supervisors who were united against the bill, and I appreciate the help of our local legislative delegation, Senator Berman and others, who were very helpful in getting the word out and trying to let everybody know how difficult a lot of these things were going to be and why some of these changes just weren't necessary. But we did make a lot of progress. So the worst parts of the bill are gone, but there are still some things that you're going to need to be aware of because they will apply to this special election. Now the session next year is early. So I know the Supervisors Association does hope that we will be able to go in early and make additional changes and fixes to Senate Bill 90 so that perhaps by the time we're dealing with the gubernatorial election in 2022, we can maybe have some of the laws, fixed by then. But for this general special election, these are going to be in place. One of the biggest things, of course, was vote by mail. And with vote by mail, we were able, thank you again to our legislative delegation who assisted in this. They did not end up doing retroactively taking everybody's vote by mail request out. So if you did have a vote by mail request on file that was extending, that is going to continue to be on, still be valid. However, they used to be for 2 general election cycles if you so requested. Now they are only 1 general election cycle. So it is going to lead to people having to continue to update those. And we used to be able to, we tried to make it easy for you. Not every county does this, but we had done this in Palm Beach County where we had the checkbox on your vote by mail ballot. So for those of you who chose to do that, you could just check that you wanted your vote by mail to continue. That is not going to be permitted at this time because there's also a new provision in this new law that states that we have to, when you make a vote by mail request, we have to check it against your social security number or your Florida driver's license or your state ID number. And obviously not, the previous vote by mail requests have not had that on there. And for obvious reasons, we won't be putting those on those voter certificates on your vote by mail envelope because we don't want that type of precious information out there in the public. So the vote by mail check boxes are not going to be available to us any longer. So we're going to have to just make sure that we are being very active and making sure everybody knows that they need to continue to request if they want to continue their vote by mail. Another really big change is the drop boxes. The initial bills that were out both in the House and the Senate said no drop boxes at all. So again, thank you to those. I actually co-chaired a committee trying to get drop boxes back in. We're able to get the drop boxes back into the early voting sites. So those will be the same as they were this past year. We were also able in the end to be allowed to keep the drop boxes at our 4 offices. In the past, we'd only had one at our main office. And this year we had been able to get one at our outer offices as well. So we are able to keep them. However, the big change is they used to be monitored by video surveillance. And we would have through the evening when we didn't have staff in our offices, we were able to hire the sheriff's deputies to sit and guard them through the night. That's no longer going to be permitted for us to do. So the drop boxes will only be allowed to be open when our staff can be there manning them. So big change in when we're going to be able to do that. There's again, obviously a lot of rulemaking that's going to happen at the state level. We're hopeful that they will do that very quickly, obviously, because we do have the special election coming up in our county in Broward's. And so we're going to need to know how they're going to handle a lot of things. In terms of ballot harvesting, as it's referred to, another important change was that you can only possess 2 vote by mail ballots that are not yours or your immediate family members. And we are supposed to keep track of that. Again, we're not yet sure how that's going to be handled. The state still hasn't done the rulemaking on that. But that is it is a big change in what we were able to do before. Of course, we do have in Palm Beach County, thank you to Commissioner Weinroth and others who helped to pass the vote by mail postage prepaid this past year. So we will continue to hopefully have postage prepaid. We have put it in our budget again this year. And if that's the case, you will still be able to use the US Postal Service. And obviously nobody's monitoring there how many ballots you're putting in the post office box. But you know, the law does say it is illegal for you to possess more than 2 in addition to yours and your immediate family members. So a lot of changes that are there, and we know that they're going to continue. Like I said, we're going to continue to be working on these, trying to make them better. This law did, as opposed to what normally happens where it goes in effect July 1, it went into effect immediately, which was a surprise to everybody, including the state officials. And so a lot of their forms and things that we have to have are not compliant because generally you have till July 1 to get those done. And so it was very sudden. And so the state is still working on their forms. So obviously we will update them as we get them. We are updating our own forms now. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call our office. And finally, we will have at every one of your meetings now, Nicole Carson from my office is going to be the liaison. So she will be at every one of the Alliance meetings and available if there are any questions. And of course, I'm always happy to come and would love to talk to you as often as is possible. But we wanted to make sure that you had somebody who was your go-to person and always available to you for questions regarding the SOE. So Nicole will be at every meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Supervisor of Elections Wendy Link. And we will be starting, hopefully, our meetings in September at the
Great.
South County Civic Center. We hope to have that. So thank you very much. And I'm sure that you'll be sending out a newsletter with all the information you just told
Absolutely.
me, and we'll get it out by email. Make sure everybody joins in our email list, whatever members would like to be on our email list. If they're not on there yet, please do get in contact with us. Thank you so much for coming. We are going to now go on to our program. This is going to be so exciting with Dr. Jake Leach from the Office of Resilience. So we have recent changes to Atlantic hurricanes. He will be followed by Mary Blakeney from the Division of Emergency Management, who tell us how to help our associations through this hurricane season. Jake Leach, please go ahead. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Vinicore, for having me, and good morning to everybody. As Dr. Vinicore pointed out, my name is Dr. Jake Leach, and I'm with the Palm Beach County Office of Resilience, and I'm going to give you a quick update on this year's hurricane season. Oh, my slides are not moving. There we go. Just a full disclosure, I am a climate scientist. My academic background is in climate, although I'm actually an ice age expert. Although hopefully I will be able to fill in your any questions that you have about hurricanes. So, as you may recall, the 2020 Atlantic hurricane was quite busy. We saw 30 named storms. It was a new record for the number of storms that we saw. In fact, we saw so many named storms that we ran out of names and we had to start naming them after Greek letters. That's only ever happened once in the past, in 2005. So a really unusual season that we had last year. And it wasn't just a one-off. It turns out that we appear to be having more hurricanes as we go along. NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, recently updated their climate averages. So every 10 years, they look at the last 30 years, and they look at sort of the average weather and the average climate over that time. And we've just had an update in 2020. This update just came out in April. And compared to the previous average, which covered 1981 to 2010, we've got an increased average number of named storms. We've gone from 12 to 14 over the last 30 years. We've got an increased number of hurricanes. We've gone from 6 to 7 over the last 30 years, although the number of major hurricanes isn't changed. So it wasn't just last year that was unusual. It looks like we are starting to see more hurricanes as time goes by and more named storms. Now, there are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, obviously, humans are having an effect on the climate and we're causing climate change. And one of the big factors there is that we're starting to warm up the ocean surface. And that warm surface ocean water is fuel for hurricanes. So we expect that as that water gets warmer, we start to see perhaps more hurricanes and perhaps stronger hurricanes. On the other hand, as we heat up the atmosphere, that starts to cause a little more turbulence, and that's bad for hurricane formation. So between those two effects, we expect to see that we'll see perhaps stronger storms, but perhaps not more storms, because that extra fuel from that hot ocean water is going to be counteracted by that extra turbulence in the atmosphere. A couple of other things that also affect the number of hurricanes we have. Hopefully you've heard of El Nino and La Nina. Those are a little complex, but you can see here at the top, what they essentially are is warm and cold ocean water sloshing back and forward in the Pacific. And that takes about 5 years. And it just so happens that during La Nina years, we get more and more hurricanes. And during El Nino years, we get fewer hurricanes. Well, last year was a La Nina year, so that's probably one of the things that contributed to more hurricanes last year. There's something similar that perhaps you have not heard of in the Atlantic called the Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation. That's when warm and cold ocean water slosh north and south, and that's about a 30 to 50 year oscillation. And it just so happens that over the last 30 years, we've been in a sloshing configuration that's been very, very good for hurricane formation. So essentially, we think that human climate change is probably going to cause stronger hurricanes, and these natural cycles just happened last year to come together in a perfect storm to cause more frequent hurricanes. And that's probably what's going on with the long-term average as well. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So the Atlantic is not the only place that we get these large swirling storms. We call them hurricanes in the Atlantic, but they also occur in the Indian Ocean. They occur in the Pacific Ocean, where they're known as typhoons. And because the Pacific Ocean is larger and ends up being warmer than the Atlantic, we tend to see these named storms happening a little earlier. So Dr. Vinokur asked me to come and give this talk about a month ago. And when I checked in April, we had already started having named storms in the Pacific. You can see a couple here hitting the Philippines. And that's completely ordinary. It's completely normal for the Pacific to get named storms a little more early than the Atlantic does. And in general, in the Pacific, we can see here at the bottom left, we start to see named storms and even hurricanes forming sort of between May and June. So in sort of mid-May-ish, right around May 15th. Whereas in the Atlantic basin, if we look here at the top, by mid-May, we're only starting to see maybe a couple of named systems, and our hurricanes don't generally start until June 1st. And that's kind of, again, a sort of long-term average that we've been looking at. So in general, the hurricane season starts in the Pacific, May 15th, and it's always been that way. And in the Atlantic, we start a couple of weeks later on June 1st, and it's always been that way. And again, this is just based on very long-term averages. That hasn't changed. 1 year does not sort of change those very, very long-term averages. So the actual hurricane season itself in the Atlantic is still in 2021 going to begin on June 1st. There's absolutely no change there. Here's what has changed. The National Hurricane Center, which is part of NOAA and which is based down in Miami, during hurricane season, they typically update their tropical weather outlooks every 6 hours. And we can see here an example from the end of last season, where we have a couple of potential tropical depressions forming here in the yellow and in orange. And we also have a tropical storm Gamma that's formed over the Yucatan and moving around here. And these get updated every 6 hours, even if there's no kind of storm activity occurring, which is what we're going to hope for this year. These are available at hurricanes.gov, which I try to check out every day. Outside of hurricane season, these maps do get updated if a tropical storm or if a tropical depression forms, but otherwise they don't. What's going to change this year is that those regular 6-hour updates are going to begin a little early. Instead of beginning on June 1st, the first day of hurricane season, the National Hurricane Center is going to start these regular 6-hour updates on May 15th. So that's on Saturday. So if you start going on Saturday to hurricanes.gov, you'll see these maps. Hopefully, we won't have all of this red and orange and yellow. Hopefully there'll be big white text across here that says no hurricane or tropical storm activity anticipated in the next 5 days. That's what we're hoping to see all season. But that will update every 6 hours. And that's what the change is. Does that make sense to everybody? Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, it does. It certainly does.
Excellent. So again, although the dates of hurricane season haven't changed, these updates are going to start a little earlier. And again, I'd recommend that you check out hurricanes.gov. Mary Blakeney, the division, the director of emergency management, she's going to give you some updates in a minute. And you should also check out the sort of emergency management website for any updates that they have there too. And then lastly, you may have seen some predictions for the 2021 hurricane season. Colorado State University, for example, gave out some predictions in April. It's usually very difficult to predict hurricane season ahead of time. This year, it's particularly difficult. We've had a La Nina year over the winter, which, as I mentioned earlier, usually causes more hurricanes, but it looks like that is going away, and we may be entering a neutral phase where it's neither La Nina nor El Nino, which would mean that we have a regular number of hurricanes, but we're not really sure what that's going to do yet. There's still a little bit of uncertainty. NOAA is going to issue their initial seasonal outlook later this month, so by the end of May. And I would encourage you to look there and see what NOAA thinks the season is going to look like. And of course, you know, the number of hurricanes is certainly important, but what's more important is, does a hurricane come here? It only takes one to ruin your day. So again, hopefully we won't get any. Hopefully nobody will get any. That's what I've got. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you.
Okay, you're going to stick around till the end. I know Jake will have questions after Mary's presentation, but I see, yes, this is of concern because they're going to be starting this map 2 weeks earlier than usual, right?
That doesn't mean we'll get the storms earlier than usual.
Doesn't mean we'll get the storms, but it's a little, that is of concern, yeah. And also storms have been coming much later too, as we've seen in the past few years. Some of our worst storms were later. Remember in October, we've had some bad ones. So, okay, well, thank you so much. You can wait, hang around. If you could stop sharing your screen, that's great. And we'll go on to Mary Blakeney to hear something from the Office of Division of Emergency Management. And we have a PowerPoint also from Mary Blakeney. Good to see you here. Thank you so much for coming. And this is all going to be on YouTube, so people will be able to review this. Go ahead, Mary. Thank you.
I just want to make sure you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Vinokur and Delray Alliance. I'm excited to be here. Those of you that maybe aren't aware of who I am, I'm your Director of Emergency Management. I just got into this role in February as our previous emergency manager retired. But I've been here in Palm Beach County. I've been at the Division of Emergency Management almost 14 years. And prior to that, I was responding to disasters right here in Palm Beach County by working with the American Red Cross. So I have been intimately involved in disasters in Palm Beach County for over 25 years. So it's hard to believe. Time flies, I guess, when you're having fun. But I want to talk a little bit and building upon what Jake just shared with you. You know, I'm not going to go into a lot of the forecasting and the changes, but he did mention that, you know, although 2020 was expected to be an above average year, it was that record-breaking season. So, you know, when we're looking at the new averages, there have been some initial forecasts put out there. You know, they're again with 2021 expecting an above average, even though we have a new average in 2021, they're expecting it to be an above average season. But I do want to talk about one point that Jake said. I look at these charts and I see all these numbers, and you know what? These charts can go away. It can just be a big number one, because that's all it takes. And I know Jake mentioned that. And it's true. It just takes one storm to ruin our day. So what are we going to do together collectively? Because we're in this as a team. We're all in this community. We all have a vested interest in this community. So we all need to be prepared. So preparedness is very simple. It starts with 4 simple steps: making a plan, building a kit, being informed, and getting involved. Those, we try to streamline this to make it as easy as possible. So let's talk a little bit about what that means to you. As part of the planning process, every single individual, every single family needs to have a personal preparedness plan. But I want to focus a little bit more on your role within your communities as your community leaders to ensure that you have your plans in place. So you want to make sure that you have pre-storm done some things, and you can do this now. If you haven't done it yet, it's not too late. You know, look at your community, identify those individuals in your community that may have special needs or may need that little additional, that additional help in your community. Make sure you've lined up your vendors that are going to come in and help you. They may be the same vendors before storm or after storm, but get those things taken care of today. Trim your trees, make sure you have agreements for any of those signage crews. If you help your residents with shuttering their homes, look at having those vendors in place now, and look at those insurance plans that you have for your individual associations. Make sure you understand your insurance deductibles as collectively as a group. That you have debris removal plans in place, maybe have contracts in place for additional security. And then, make sure you understand what the concerns are of your residents. So you want to look at all those things well in advance. Now's the time to do these type of activities in your communities. So we also want to look at some of your common property areas. And when we talk about that, when we talk about a hurricane, yes, a hurricane is a hazard, but there are hazards embedded within those hurricanes: tornadoes, floodwaters. So we need to be aware of everything that can happen in a hurricane. And a lot of the floodwaters that come are exacerbated by individuals not cleaning out their storm drains, for example. So you want to do all those preparedness actions now to ensure that your community is ready. These are all those things that we can take care of right now, what we call blue skies, before the disaster happens, to know that your community is ready to respond. We also want to look at how your individual HOA may be set up, how it's structured, and you want to look at what are your rules that you have in place, and know that if we get a big impact here in the county, we're going to have sufficient damage to our structures. You may want to talk about how does your HOA, if you have an architectural board within your HOA, you may want to be a little bit flexible with what that means, because we may be limited with building supplies. We may be limited with those items that people need to repair their homes quickly. So you want to understand, how can you as leaders in your community be flexible to your neighbors around you in allowing them the time to repair their homes? We might need to have individuals to come in. You might want to have your planning and zoning and building folks from your municipality or for the county come in and help you be educated on the permitting process and what it would take. And then have those individuals available that can help you with getting contractors in place. You might want to help your neighbors by having listed, qualified, licensed contractors that they could call at a moment's notice. And be supportive of those individuals that want to come in and educate you. If it's a declared disaster, they may be FEMA liaisons that want to come in and do presentations to your community. Be supportive of that. Invite them into your community. So where can you go to get some of these items to be informed? So we've made a plan, we've built a kit, and I'm not going to go into details of what should be in your kit, because we provide access to all those resources through various websites, and I want to talk to you about that. We have a very robust website in the county, very easy to find, readypbc.com. You can go there, learn how to build a personal preparedness plan, know what should be in your disaster supply kit. But we also have other programs available to you that I'm going to talk about to keep you informed and keep you educated. Alert PBC is our very robust communication system in the county. You can sign up for it to get alerts. We also have a mobile phone app called PBC Dart that's available on Android and Google Play. And you're welcome to go to our website, plagiarize away. If you want to take our information and put it on, Alliance of Delray's letterhead and share it, we're good with that. We just want to make sure that we get the information out so our community is prepared. So we have a wide variety of resources for you, but we also have our non-traditional resources. Through our Emergency Information Center, we still have a traditional pick up the phone, call a number, ask those questions. When we activate, we have those resources available. We have a very robust call center. We also are linked in through social media, through Facebook, through Twitter, through Instagram. So however you like to communicate, we're there sharing that information on all those traditional resources. Our Alert PBC, as I told you, that's our mass notification system. That is where you could get text messages, phone calls, emails to whatever device you want to pick based on your location you've identified that you care about. You would get notifications of imminent threats right to your cell phone, to your home phone, to your email based on that location. So we have that information available. All of this information that you put within Alert PBC to be notified is strictly confidential. We don't share your phone number. It's protected. You're not going to be, your phone number and information is not going to be sold to private providers, because all of this is considered a mass emergency notification system, and it's protected through public records. So it's not shared with anyone. You can visit alertpbc.com website to sign up for that and to create your profile. You create it, we don't. You can select what you want to get informed about. So if you haven't signed up for alertpbc.com, please do that. And then get involved with your community. In Palm Beach County, we have over 40 active community emergency response teams that get trained on basic first aid, CPR, fire suppression, and those types of things that they can do. It's 40 hours of training. It's your neighbors helping neighbors. We just provide that training, and training courses are underway. Currently, we just had an exercise on Saturday partnering with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. We used their facility, had trainers come in that took some of these CERT members through scenarios of what they were trained in. So for information on that, you can find information on the CERT program at our website. Very easy to navigate to the Palm Beach County website. You just go to pbcgov for Palm Beach County Government.org, and it'll take you to the county's website. Or you can contact, we have a staff member here that can help you get signed up for CERT training courses. His name is Michael Jankowski, and you can reach out to him anytime here at the Division of Emergency Management. So that's how you can prepare. What we're doing at Emergency Management is we're continuing to collaborate with all of our 39 municipal partners. We have very robust communication programs that go on here. We meet with our stakeholder groups. We continue to do that. Even with COVID, we've continued to do it through sessions like this that are remote. We have incorporated COVID strategies. We continue to look at our county. We divide it up because the county is so large. We have pre-identified staging areas. We have 6 of them called emergency operating areas that we work throughout the county. And we continue to work with those partners to predetermine some of those things that may happen in your community. And it allows us to stage equipment, to get out there, to better respond and meet those critical needs in each of the communities, because the needs of Jupiter might be very different than the needs of Boca. So we're here to respond. We have the county divided up so that we can reach out and work with each of our 39 municipalities closer. I just have to, before I end here, I just have to point out that COVID is still here. It's still real, and we have continued to incorporate our COVID strategies into our hurricane sheltering. So if individuals will be taking advantage of going to a shelter, we've continued with physical distancing, face masks, screening, have continued to incorporate isolation areas. We've increased hand washing stations, sanitizer. We've enhanced working with our school district partners, feeding protocols. So I just want to remind you, disasters are local, and you as members of maybe your management team, your HOA boards, you're that first level of defense. You're that first line of government for your residents. So we want to make sure that you're working with us as a partner to make sure planning for disasters and preparing for disasters is key right now. Continue to collaborate with us. We're here to support you, support us in some of our communication methods, and be a role model to your residents. Remember to have a plan, have a kit, monitor local media, our website, our sources, have plans for your pets. I noticed Commissioner Sachs, if you didn't notice, there was a dog in her background. We love those animal family members just as much as the humans, sometimes even more at times. So have those plans in place for individuals with special needs. And just remember, hurricane season is 6 months long. It's not a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We need to be ready all season long, because the peak does come in the August, September, October timeframes. And I know Dr. Vinokur mentioned October. Traditionally, the height of the South Florida hurricane season is September, early September through mid-October. So we need to be ready all season long. So we need to stay vigilant, we need to stay prepared, and we need to stay informed. So I would be happy to take, any questions that anyone may have.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for that. We'll get all those websites and mobile phone apps out to everybody. And I don't see any questions yet coming from the public. Remember, everybody watching can write in a question there, and we'll have either Jake or Mary answer it. So we'll just wait a few minutes for those questions, if you can hang on, because you know who came on? Representative Kelly Skidmore has joined us, and just for a minute, while people are thinking about questions they might have, we'll just go to Representative Skidmore and maybe to give us a 2-minute update on, thank you very much for coming, on what you did with the legislative session, and then we'll go back to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vinokur. Sorry I was late. We had the Speaker's office created some legislator university courses for us in preparation for the special session on the Seminole Gaming Compact. So as we are preparing for that session, we're learning a lot about the existing compact and the proposed compact. And I'm happy to talk about that at some point when you're ready. Thank you so much for letting me be here today. We miss you guys so much. Not having the opportunity to have visitors in the Capitol was a very strange session for a lot of us. Although I think that we had a good session. On the call today also are my aides, my legislative aides, Robert Mariaga and Gwen Gonzalez. And I think we had a successful session. I know Senator Berman talked about the student retention bill that we passed together. I think that's going to help a lot of parents who had that front row seat to their child's education over the past year and a half in some cases. So in terms of appropriations, we were fortunate to be able to bring back $1,650,000 to the district. 75,000 of that went to mental health agency in Boca Raton that serves low-income families. A portion of that went to Belglade for stormwater, Hokie for park enhancements, West Tech Education Center for vocational education, and a big chunk of it went to the Everglades Restoration Workforce Training Program. So in 2019, there was a bill that took land out of production in the Glades community to create a reservoir. And in exchange for that, this program was established to provide non-farming workforce training. However, there was no funding in the program. So we were able to get $750,000 into that program, which will help the Glades immensely, especially since they have some new opportunities out there with a company called FinFrock. They need some training in CDL, plumbing, carpentry, all those things. So that should help those communities a lot. And I won't keep you anymore. I know you have a big program. It's wonderful to see you, Dr. Vinacourt. I hope everyone is doing well. I loved all the emergency information on hurricanes. Those are all great reminders for those of us who've lived here most of our lives. Great reminders for that. And thank you so much. I look forward to seeing all of you in person someday soon.
Yes, thank you very much. Next month, we'll be having our County Administrator, Virginia Baker, come to explain about what's happening with some of the monies that we're getting from the COVID, the relief and all, and a little bit about the county budget. And that will be next month, another Zoom meeting. But we do expect to, in September, get back to the Civic Center, hopefully, one way or another, with some morning breakfast items too, so we can all enjoy it together. We have both of our speakers here. Thank you so much for coming. We do not have any questions here. I think it was a very comprehensive explanation of where we've been, where we're going with hurricanes, and how we all know that one big one is bad. We don't want to, we're always preparing, and we got wonderful county members and divisions and offices to help us. Thank you so much for coming. Remember, next month, we're going to be having an interesting meeting with our County Administrator, Virginia Baker, and read our newsletters. We'll be sending out all this information today on the email. It'll be in our newsletter, how to contact all of these emergency information. We'll have the phone number for alertpbc.com. Somebody just asked that phone number for alertpbc.com. Could you provide that, Mary? Any phone number?
There is not a phone number, but if somebody needs help navigating and signing up for it, they're welcome to call our office at 712-6400 and just tell them they need assistance with signing up for Alert PBC.
Okay, that's the number of the Division of Emergency Management, 561-712-6400. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for coming. And we had a really wonderful meeting. And this is all will be on YouTube so we can review everything. Till next month. So long.